Look at Ross. He had a very fancy background today.
He's all fancy.
I've got this little secluded lounge in the back.
Oh, yeah.
Looks like you're in the lobby.
Well, the lobby's kind of like over there, but like there's this room. I don't know what it's really for. I'll show you.
It's for podcasting, is what it's for.
Like, there's nothing else. There's no other use for the room. Like, it's just down the hall. I've never seen anybody in it. Because I've never seen anybody in it, we're going to be in here, and like 40 children are going to be like fucking screaming at me.
Yeah, for sure.
The famous last words.
This is the Tapped In Podcast, the podcast for beverage distributors that want to empower their sales team to drive business results. Listen up and welcome back to another episode of the Tapped In Sales Podcast. I am your moderator for the day, Bud, and I'm here with Data Mike and Magic Moneyball Ross. That's kind of a mix of both words together, but we'll do Moneyball Ross. Here on the Tapped In Podcast, your podcast for beer distributors by beer distributors. I am going to take us off a little bit of a beaten path today, or off the beaten path today, and we are going to talk about what might a honeybee have in common with the sales team? And Mike, one of the things I was looking through doing some planning on this as well. And one of the things that grabbed me in like planning is that, people used to smoke while pumping gas, and today reps, like, that was one of the things that popped back up in the planning too, by the way, just nice. As a little bit of like a fun research. But really, have you guys heard of this thing called the waggle dance that the honeybees do with each other? And what the waggle dance is, for those of you who can see your screens out there, the waggle dance is how honeybees share the location, distance, and direction of the food source that they are going to go find. And they do a little dance and they wiggle their ass and it's hilarious. But the duration of the wiggle will actually notify the other honeybees where the actual food source is. And the idea behind this is that we have to actually show the peer hunter bees where this is. Now, this guy named, where's his name at? This guy named Rory Sutherland pulls out a very interesting concept, which is if bees are evolutionary beings, which they are, and they've been optimized over thousands and thousands and thousands of years to find the proper food source, why are some bees non-compliant? And depending on the size of the bees hive and how big and where they're located at, somewhere around 20% of the bees are non-compliant and they do not listen to the waggle dance. They go out and they go find their own food source, right? And we as humans and scientists are fairly baffled by this, but these non-compliant bees drive a really good part of the puzzle, which is if you always go back to the same food source over and over again, you could wind up as a beehive and get to the food source one day and be like, where's the food? There's no pollen, there's no nectar, there's nothing there. We as humans came down and chopped down the food source, raided the forest in some way, cut all the flowers out. And you need these 20% of the bees to be non-compliant. But why haven't bees developed compliance officers? In some way, shape, or form in the distribution world, we can fall in these traps of having compliance officers where we want to apply the same thing over and over and over again. So that's kind of the academic jumping off point. And from my perspective, Mike, it's always around how do you manage the compliance, and that what maybe our suppliers want to do or what our sales managers want to do, but you also want to go out and find those little experiments and find those little opportunities too, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's super important. I think it's also important what you said too of how bees handle their direction, right? Clear. I mean, it's basically nature's original sales meeting. It's fast, it's visual, everybody knows what to do next, right? Bees
Everybody
are not
at their
sending
sales meetings
emails.
will be walking around in a circle, shaking their ass, telling them when.
Yeah. Oh God, please send us videos. If you do that, please send us videos. That'd be great.
The GPS dance.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. But they're sending clear signals, right? They're not sending emails and PowerPoints. It's direction, distance, value, right? And that's what the bees are getting across. They're not learning a whole brand decks. It's what's important. Um, and I think that's the KPI of the insect world, right? And when we talk about those rogue bees or the non-compliant bees, and I'm sure, there may be some listeners that are like, well, just fire that 20%. They're not listening. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're not doing their job. They're not following these KPIs. Then we're just fire them. But they're super important. They're super important for the colony. They're super important for the sales organization. If every bee just followed orders, the hive would miss better fields, right? Just outside of their current radius. Exploration is risk, but it's also insurance against stagnation. So if we're not exploring new opportunities, we're missing new opportunities.
I love that.
And with that being said, it's thinking about back in the day, right? When high noon hit, that could have been missed if we were exploring outside of the beer world. Who would have really pushed that cutwater, right? The bees that are out exploring and not following those directions are finding the next path for the organization. They're finding the new cutwater, coming back into the Atlas. And I think about, the colony said, push 4-packs of Cutwater when Cutwater first came out, and we had to put it everywhere. It didn't make sense for our market. There were a lot of parts of our market that were struggling, right? So the $15, I think, 4-pack at the time was a hard purchase. It was also a hard sell-in, but we had some rogue bees that were like, all right, well, I need distribution on this product. I'm breaking it up into singles.
Yes.
Why not? Monaco's doing it. And this is before the big push, before the big breweries are like, hey, everything needs to be singles. Yeah. We had rogue bees saying, if I need to get this done, maybe there is something for it because I see Monaco everywhere and I want a piece of that pie too. Didn't ask for directions, didn't ask for clearance from the tower, just broke open 4-packs and started putting them in glides. And those are the bees that we rely on to find, the next opportunities.
Mic drop. I think we finished the episode. I think we're done. That's the episode. I have nothing to add to that.
But Ross, in reality, though, like you do have stuff to add to this. So because when we get ourselves stuck into a compliance mindset and forcing the compliance world down throughout the network, we do miss out on these opportunities. So if you're a rep out there challenged with the compliance mindset from a sales organization, what should you be thinking about for how do I try experiments, or should I get out of my lane? Or is that something that is just like more leadership driven, that we should actually be working from the top to try to find and build these little experiments from the top?
I mean, I think, Bud, you and I share the philosophy that we should empower people to make decisions. So I would argue that as you look across your organization, those independent bees are the ones you want in your frontline sales role, and you want them in your most valuable sales positions. And then allow that to diffuse across the rest of the organization. That's your on-premise, that's your independent. But I think you and I share the perspective that that's the group of people that you want driving the front end of the business.
When we talk with reps in the field, Mike, one of the things that we like to talk about during an on-site is like, you have to try experiments. And experiments in a compliance mindset are like mass command and control efforts. Thou shall place this product at 80% of the B and U or A and B accounts across the market. And when we talk to reps around reconfiguring that mindset, it's like, you actually want to start to spend 10 to 20% of your time attempting to try things in a few accounts. And if you find they work in 1 or 2 accounts, expand them to additional accounts. And if they continue to work, expand them to the next round of accounts as well. But there's no rule book that requires these experiments to be mass actioned across all of your network of routes or of stores all at the same time. And I think that's a fairly large shift for a lot of reps. Would you agree with that, Mike?
Yeah, it's a hard concept to really think about because I mean, space is really limited, right? I mean, maybe 5 to 10% of accounts have abundance of space, but for the accounts the space is super limited. So when we're demanding products to be in there, we're clogging up spots that could be opportunities for exploration. And with that being said, it's, hey, you know what? This brand that's being pushed upon us, maybe from our supplier or just a objective from above, is clogging up my space, and I've got something else on fire here, and I really need to expand on that. Or I tried this experiment in another account, and I need to cut it in. But the exploration of the experiments, yeah, that's what we push the most. If you don't take chances, you're not going to stumble across the next big thing. If everybody just stayed the line, there would be no innovation. There would be no next big, push that's coming out. So, and I think even within the organization too, there's a fine balance. You don't want 100% obedience. You're going to lose your discovery.
Yeah.
If you allow for 100% freelance, you're going to lose scale, right? So there's that fine balance to where maybe it's 80-20, 80% execution, 20% exploration, but you want to you want to be able to that 80%, you want to rely on that to keep the lights on, going back to those same honey fields or those same fields that have pollen. That's what's going to keep the lights on, right? It's going to squeeze today's lemon. But when our exploratory bees, they're out there trying to plant tomorrow's trees. They're out there trying to see what is coming up next. We need both sides. We need that 80% to keep the lights on. We need a 20% to keep the lights on in the future as well.
I think it goes back to, what are we trying to achieve, right? That's my tagline. That's my shirt, my hat. You see me at CBC with the hat. What are you trying to achieve? So if we accept the idea that what we're trying to achieve is a fast reaction to the market and changes in the market and adapting. So if you accept that premise, which you may or may not accept that premise, but it's something we've been talking about over the last couple of podcasts, then you need individuals that are capable of adapting and moving into that change or moving into that opportunities or those opportunities. And that naturally lends itself to that type of individual. Now, what we've been doing as an industry is completely antithetical to that, which is we are constantly moving towards command and control, prescriptive. And I would argue, or I would posit, that what we've been doing over the last 10 years is completely opposite of what we should be doing, right? We should be seeking out that 20%. We should be empowering that 20%. We should be compensating that 20%. Because if you believe, as I think I do, and Bud, as I think you do, and Mikey, I think you've come around to it now too, which is that the decisions and the impact is made in the individual account, responding to individual clientele, and with the portfolio that you have in a very flexible, dynamic, entrepreneurial way. And I think that if you look across humans, not all of us are entrepreneurs. Not all of us have that in us. But I think it's that entrepreneurial spirit that wins the day every single day at these accounts. So we want to foster that.
You want to find those opportunities, like be willing to pick your head up. And, Mike, we had a rep on our team that would constantly struggle with, like, what am I going to do next? What do I need? I don't think that they were not wanting to think. It was a perspective of allowance. I want to be allowed to do this. And we viewed the world, and still do, through a lens of that there's so many opportunities in the market. You cannot command and control yourself to every single opportunity that's out there. And Ross, in a former episode, you talked about, we did an episode on command and control, and you talked about, like, if you were going to fight a war in World War II, it would be how many tanks, how many airplanes, how many bullets, how many bombs. Like, it's a very command and control structure. And now, if you're fighting a war in the Middle East or Afghanistan or Iraq, or like what they're doing over in Gaza right now, that's a different type of war. You have to make decisions faster. It's a much smaller scale. You've got different battle plans and different ways that you go to war, and you need to provide more flexibility to the frontline people to actually fight and actually win. And in our world, that looks like autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And that's the Dan Pink book, Drive. And that's his 3 big takeaways of what drives human behavior. And it's the willingness or the capability to be autonomous and make decisions for themselves, the tools to master their craft, whatever that may be, in some way, shape, or form, and the understanding of the purpose behind what they're trying to get done. And if we take another step backwards, and if you're thinking about trying to move in this direction as a leader, how you actually go about, like, you have to put some structure in place to actually do this as well. You have to put a process in place, some education in place. You can't just throw a command and control structure out the window and then expect everybody to just start to learn what they're supposed to do after day one.
Like everything, there's nuance, right? I mean, there's a spectrum, and at the far end, you could have somebody that's too much in that 20%, to the point where they're a lone wolf and they completely allergic to any type of control whatsoever, or team player aspect, or they're just like F you to everything you say. That's at the far extreme. Now, again, just like we lay out our accounts A, B, C, we have what we can impact and what we can't. I think similarly, we need to think about the personalities that we have across our sales team. Yes, you want to stray towards that 20% and more towards entrepreneurial, but the person that's more of a lone wolf, you want to push them. That's, in my mind, push them more towards like on-premise independent, where you want them to be a little bit more gung ho, a little bit more off the beaten path. As you move back towards chain, and towards the chains that we have very little impact in, now you want somebody that's a little bit more okay with the idea that, hey, half my day is going to be surveys and top down. I'm just restocking the shelves. I'm just refilling the order. My life's not that exciting, relative to on premise, where it's like every day is a crapshoot. Who the hell knows what I'm walking into?
Yeah.
And some people thrive on that, where they the uncertainty of, I'm walking into the bar and like maybe the guy's going to be like hungover, and maybe he's going to be happy today, and maybe he's going to be real pissed.
Maybe
Like,
they won't even be there.
Maybe they won't be there. Maybe they'll be in business. Maybe they'll have money today. I don't know. Maybe I'm walking into a situation where it's like, hey, I got $100 to spend today, brother. What are we buying?
Well, I can get you like a couple cases of beer. You can't even get a fucking keg anymore for that.
I just dated myself.
Thanks a lot, inflation. Hey, when I started selling Natty Light, it was like $42 for a half barrel of Natty Light or Busch Light.
That's great.
Like that. It was incredible.
Yeah. My job at deer camp, we had 8 guys that go north every year, and everybody else spends a bunch of money on food for the whole camp. My job was to bring a keg of Busch Light, and it was like $50. I was like, perfect. This is
perfect.
This
just shows how long it's been since I've been
like 80 or 90 bucks.
What is it now? It's
like
still sub 100.
It's probably, for most part, in most markets, still sub 100 for like Busch Light and Natty Light or Mill Best.
See, a really good sales rep would say, hey, you only have $100. You only have $100 to buy or to spend. Let's get 3 6-barrels.
Let's do it.
Jack the margin.
Easier to carry, easier to manage.
Hey, you only got $100 to spend. You can buy 3 6-barrels today.
There's also an element around the experimentation and the 20% trial and error, where reps need to be talking to each other. Like guys y'all have your group chats where you talk shit about leadership behind your backs and everything else. We know you have them. It's not lost on any of us. We joke about it in many calls with leadership teams. We have to find a way as teams to inspire you to collaborate with each other about experiments you're trying as well. And these should be things that if you try something and you like it, or you see how it's working, or if you see another fellow rep of yours excelling, reach out to them and bug them. What are they doing to achieve these outcomes or goals? Because I want to implant this idea in your head. You are competitive with each other, but you're not competitors of each other. And you want to win, or you want to be better than your buddy or your knucklehead peer that's a rep, but you don't have to win for them to lose. Like, there's no zero-sum game in this, because you're selling in 2 completely different account bases. So you can learn from one another and share best practices back and forth and be collaborative one-on-one, or even as a group in your group chats. So I'd highly recommend that. Mikey, that's something we talk about with reps ongoing all the time too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And as leadership, you have to encourage that. As leadership, right, we don't want to stop the detours. We want to make sure that they're mapped and we share when they work.
Mhm.
And that's part of our job, is to take those success stories and call them out. It does two things. One, it educates the rest of the team of, hey, this is working, right? Route so and so tried this and it's working great. But what it also does is it gives that rep that went out there, took that chance and won, the recognition that they deserve for taking the chance, getting it done, right? We really, I mean, honestly, you don't want a whole hive of robots, right?
It's
You want the
incredibly
hive,
boring.
right? You want the hive to have a clear playbook, but also encourage curiosity. And when that curiosity wins, we need to share it for sure. And we don't need to punish the reps that try and miss every time, or else nobody else is going to try.
Yeah.
Right. If you punish that and you miss and you get punished, then you never might have found the next high noon. And taking those chances is what is best for the organization. So to punish that is not a good thing either.
If you were to tell a leader how to share those wins or how to call out those wins, what are your top few ways in your mind to actually call attention to those, Mikey?
I loved it when we would do it in sales meetings. Um, you know, our sales meetings were probably more relaxed than most. It wasn't full of PowerPoints. We tried to keep a time limit on them. We were, we were the waggle dance. It was a clear direction, the distance, and the value, and that's what we really wanted to get across. But we also wanted to make sure that we were sharing those success stories. So yeah, every meeting we at least tried to pull in something, a win of some sort, no matter what it was, on premise, off premise. Share that, and then share the data behind it of what it did, what kind of impact it made for that route or for the organization or for the account too. Also, hey, we had our own group chat, right? I mean, the reps had their sideline but no management allowed group chat text going on.
No, no,
Management not
they, no,
welcome.
no, 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 days.
Yeah,
No
yeah,
thanks.
but
Yes.
but we also had our group text too that we were in, and we would share it. We were at an account, we saw something cool, took a picture, sent it out to everybody. Hey, look what so and so's doing. This is an awesome idea, and it's working.
Those
So a
are
couple
fun.
different ways.
Those are fun ways to do it. Serendipitous in nature is an incredibly powerful tool that people don't think about. We do so much award giving in corporate America or in organizations that are like block and tackle, like employee of the month or team member of the month or best display that's ranked with a dollar figure or everything else. You will be surprised if you try these things around serendipitous in nature of just saying something that you loved about what somebody did and having them talk about it or having you talk about it in a sales meeting at random. And serendipitous just means at random. That is incredibly powerful. You can try these experiments at home if you have kids or if you have a partner married to a husband or a wife. You can actually do serendipitous thank yous and you'll be blown away about the responses you get from folks. You can try these little experiments in low stakes ways before you take it to high stakes at work as well. And we love this stuff, Mike. It was the dumb shit we did.
Yeah, I've been stuck on the sidelines for the last couple weeks. Football practice started, and my son plays football, so listening to the coach is very similar to what we're talking about right here, right? I mean, the watching the offense run a play, and the play doesn't, the defense responds to it, right, and the play's not going to go off like it should. The backup plan, which doesn't even need to be told, the backup plan is already in the kids' minds, and that's what they run. It's like, hey, this is where we're running the ball. Oop, the hole's blocked. We're going right instead, right? And at the same time, I'm listening to that coach call out kids, and these are sixth graders, so they're kids, right? So, but hey, Brandon, I loved your effort. Brandon, I've got my eye on you. That effort was amazing, and the rest of the team responds to that. Now the rest of the team is throwing in all that effort, and Brandon is on top of a mountain because he's out there going, yeah, coach called me out. I am putting in all the effort, and the other kids want to be Brandon too. So any kind of recognition goes a long way, whether you're on the football field, in the beehive, or in the sales out in the
Well,
market.
well, it's we keep going back to the beehive, but we as humans, we've only lived in modern society for only so long, right? And I think that recognition is important, but I think also, it's funny. I was having a conversation with somebody about it, and the idea of the whole impulse for our phones and gambling is the idea of dopamine, right? And the idea was that, you go out 5 times looking for the buffalo and it wasn't there. But you still had the desire to go out the 6th time because that dopamine hit, you get when you find the buffalo, right? So that's what, selectively as humans, we've bred for this idea that, oh, I got to get out there and try to find the buffalo today. And when I get it, it's a great hit. But similar to what you were talking about, Mike, you got the recognition. But if you see Mike out there every day bringing home a buffalo, and 3 days in a row you've been skonked, you're going to say, well, where are you going to find that buffalo?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm hungry.
I'm really hungry, and like everybody in the village is saying that Mike's the best because he always brings a buffalo home. And I can't find any buffalo.
Yeah.
So Mike says, hey, he says high noon, man. You just got to go to high noon. That's where the buffalo are.
And what's important about that story too is that he shares it with the rest of the tribe, or the rest of the colony, because he wants
everybody
the whole
gets to eat.
team to succeed.
Yeah.
And everybody gets to eat. Exactly. Instead of just being selfish and saying, I found this great brand and this is what I'm doing with it and it's succeeding and I'm not telling anybody because I want to be on top of the leaderboard every month. You take that info back to the team. You want the team to succeed.
So Ross, if we think about another economic term of like silent hand economics or the invisible hand economics from, I think that was Adam Smith, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would
Wealth
be,
of nations.
yes. So like if you're a leader looking at this and like, man, I have a lot of robots on my team and I want to bring in some more culture around some experimentation, that's also going to require a shift in incentive structure and a shift in the way that you not only educate the reps on what you want them to do, but actually how you get them to think for themselves day in and day out as well. So there's a little bit of like behavioral economics that are going to go into making this transformation too, right?
Well, cue the VXP plugin right there.
I mean, it's a little bit, but it's also like, this is what we do professionally, but whether you do work with us or not, like this is an important piece of the puzzle. Cause I don't want folks to say, okay, I'm going to take the reins off and just expect reps to start to think for themselves. If you don't have this return on effort, if you don't have a way to teach them that thinking for themselves is valuable to them as well, that then this will fall flat on their face and they'll be like, this won't work. Like this
Well,
doesn't.
let's dissect all those little things we said.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
Mike's football analogy, that's the recognition, right? So that's that idea that we have a real-time leaderboard and you can see who's at top at any given time and you got people competing to be at the top. So effort's getting rewarded in real time and it's visible and shown, right? So that's that piece. The next piece is that we need to make sure that there's no scarcity. In other words, there's not a finite number of buffalo, right? So it's more about, hey, Mike figured out how to make a spear. Well, that's a hell of a lot more efficient at killing buffalo. So we need to make sure we're sharing the practice. That there's no downside to sharing the knowledge, the tribal knowledge, right? It's not, and then we just end up with more buffalo to eat as a family, right? So the fact that Mike's able to share that with me, I go out and make more additional money. So we don't have a fixed pot of money, right? Everybody's competing against their own ability to do what they need to do, and your success isn't at the expense of my success. We need to make sure that we're setting that up both from an incentive, an objective, and a variable compensation perspective, that we're not creating a, if I win, you lose.
Yeah.
Right? If you win, I win, right? We need to make sure that we're setting it up that way. And then obviously we need to reward excellence, right? And that, when you succeed, that you win, and that taking a chance and succeeding is properly rewarded. That comes into that conversation we had about caps, right? And if you go out and you're just like, hey, you're capped at 1 buffalo, cool, but the village can be a whole lot better if you brought home 3. Like, you shouldn't be like, hey, I got my buffalo, I'm done for the day, I'm just going to relax. No, we all do better as a company if you go out there and you're incentivized to keep going, right? And so you put all these things together. I mean, it kind of lends itself to that structure we have.
100%. It's by design that way. And, to kind of put a final thought on this, like bees didn't evolve to be efficient. They evolved to survive change. And that is the marketplace that we live in right now, is an incredible amount of change with an incredible amount of new products to sell. And even outside of beverage alcohol, you've got, mood alternating and THC beverages. We've got clients that are selling, edibles. We have edible categories, and not just edibles in what edibles means in THC products or Delta 9 products, but also edibles and snacks and in salty treats. And we've got clients selling lighters and like an incredible amount of different things that are going on the trucks right now. And the goal for the sales team is not perfection or blind obedience all the time. It's adaptability, visibility, and momentum so that they can actually move and drive these new frontiers and find these new opportunities for us. Those are really important.
I mean, I think it's also important to play the devil's advocate and say that, 20, 30 years ago when we had 30 SKUs, it was more that command and control structure. Because going back to that podcast that you referenced earlier, command and control works very well when you have a very finite number of SKUs, maybe 2 or 3 suppliers, and your entire job is look at the leader, command the space. It's a war. We're in a world where it's very much like you see, drew the analogy to like modern warfare. It's you got to be pretty freaking adaptable because it's changing so much, right? Tomorrow a robotic dog with a gun on it could show up. You never know. It's again, you have to accept our premise, and we have a theory or philosophy that the market is too dynamic with too many SKUs, too many suppliers, right? And the market's too dynamic in terms of customer taste changing and profiles changing so quickly. Today it's RTD, tomorrow it could be something else. Hey, it's going towards THC. Oh, maybe everybody tomorrow decides that THC is bad and they go this direction. Like, I mean, you got to be exceptionally adaptable, and it's just not a very good structure to lay command and control on top of.
No.
But ironically, the entire industry for the last 10 years has been laser focused on more and more command and control.
And these real world examples are real world examples. Like at one point in time in Missouri, THC was completely banned overnight, and then it was unbanned the next day. Like that happened within like 14 days. So like these things are in real. Or if you do any of like you poke around at like the gangs over in Japan, the Yakuza, they started delivering drugs with drones. So what did the police do? They got drones with nets on them to catch the drones that are delivering drugs. And then what did the Yakuza do? They got drones that have their own nets to catch the police drones. And it's like everybody's having so much fun. This is more fun than the police have ever had enforcing drug trafficking rules in Japan. So like these things, we draw these crazy and we make space on the podcast to draw these crazy analogies because they are on the wing of craziness, but they're important to talk about it here. They're entertaining, they're fun to talk about, but they also can draw connections back to like our world and our little industry, although not high stakes in the world of like, you're going to live or die, very high stakes in terms of transformation for the success and survival of our industry and our category as beer distributors right now, though, too. So these are
we're also trying to drive home our point and our philosophy that it is that decentralization, independence, is necessary in this world that we live in today in our industry. And I think without the analogies, it's hard for we can sit here and say it all day, every day. But I think these analogies are important for us to be able to kind of drive home what we believe. I mean, because there's nobody sitting here arguing with us and telling us we're wrong. So
they haven't come on the podcast yet. We've been we're still open. We're still open for business. Haven't anybody hit us up yet?
Comment below.
Comment below. info@vxptech.com. Oh, I love it. Well, let's shift gear and do a little bit of news update around beverage alcohol market. So this is a July update from BW66, and consumer spending in the last 12 months is up 3.2% to $418.4 billion. Now, the biggest concern I think that everybody continues to have is, let's share the right screen here, is servings per adult down 2.7%. They're spending more, but drinking slightly less. Beer is down 5.5% versus last year. It's a down 1.8 CAGR since 2019. Wine down 0.5 point versus last year, down 1.9 CAGR since 2019. Spirits is up 3.8 this year, 4.9 CAGR, up 4.9 CAGR since 2019. And if you exclude RTDs, that drops, that growth rate basically, Ross, cuts in half. Mm-hmm. And RTD spirits is up 10.9. So like really that RTD, although spirits is up, that
I think
RTD
you have to
is
separate the
driving.
two.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that RTD is driving an incredible amount of that spirit growth right now. I mean, at more than
And
50%
wine
of the
was
spirit.
basically flat, right?
Wine's basically flat. Yep.
Yeah, wine's
Yep.
always flat.
Yep. I
The
mean,
waggle dance. The waggle dance is pointing towards spirits and RTDs for
mhm.
sure, right? But I talk about this a lot when I'm on site, and I've been to a couple of sales meetings lately. But people are not afraid to spend the same to drink less, or even spend more to drink less, right? And that's why I think in today's market, it's more important than ever to focus on GP over volume, because volume is just a losing story.
It's a
And
losing
it,
proposition.
yeah, and it's it gets you down, but when you're focusing on GP, the dollars are there. The consumer is not afraid to spend the money. The consumer is buying high dollar, low volume packages, right? So we need to chase that. The money's out there. We need to get after that and make sure we're getting our piece of the pie too. Because if we're just chasing volume and we're only measuring volume, and that's how we're setting our targets, it's going to be a little defeating when we're not looking at the GP side of things. And this chart right here says it all for sure.
I saw an
And
interesting article that, and I perused it very quickly. So I'm certainly not the hard hitting journalist here, but it said something about Sierra Nevada's go to market strategy, and it was talking about how the consumers of hazy IPA, specifically theirs, is a consumer that's spending more money, and they decided they're focusing on that with their, what do they say, core four, focus four, what are they calling it?
something like that.
And
Yeah.
I thought that was really smart to look at, follow the dollars, right? What's consumers are spending more to drink less, and let's figure out how we extract more from that group. Because chasing the volume isn't going to get you there, but chasing the dollars will.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool seeing Sierra Nevada do that.
Well, if you look even deeper into the Sarcana scan data, which is somewhat more recent data than the BW, the what is it called again? It's BW 166. The some of the Sarcana scan data has got spirit dollars up 6.3, 14% up on volume. Cutwater plus 89, neutral plus 22, long drink plus 53, high noon plus 7.5, buzzballs, carbless, and others still up double digit. All while beer is basically down. I mean, this is a weekly data point. I don't know if I love scan data on a weekly basis, but beer down 0.9 for the week. But in beer, you still got Ultra up 5, Bush up 3, Pacifico up 20, Victoria up 39, and Guinness up 2.5. Guinness is
Well,
like,
two of those are high end, right? Victoria and Ultra are straying towards the
and
high end. So
Pacifico,
that's,
three
and
of them.
Pacifico. Now,
I would say
Bush,
Guinness.
in Bush, you can kind of throw that out because that's the flavors, right? That's Apple that's driving
Mm,
that.
I
I
would say
think
it's more than that.
Core Bush Light is doing well too.
Yeah,
It is,
for
but
sure.
I'm gonna say it. But it's also got that lift from the flavors. I'm trying. I'm
Not
trying to make
lime
it.
though. I think
I'm trying to come up with. I'm trying to support my argument here, guys.
You,
Don't fight me on this.
well, we can argue with you. You're not wrong. It's probably like the spirits game where there's half of that Bush Light is driven off of flavor, or Bush number is driven off of flavors, and half is off of core health.
Yeah,
Yep. But
It's all
Guinness
that
is
lime sitting in the market. Don't forget my $20 in Vegas, Ross.
yeah, yeah. Well, actually, you
$1.
got to check in
Send
on
us
that. That's next
send us
podcast. We're gonna check.
images, send us pictures of any kind of abundance of Bush Light lime so I can get my $20 from Ross in the market.
Please, yes.
Market. Man, Guinness though is on a tear. Like we watched this from the beginning of one of our clients that kind of saw
I
this
remember
flip
that.
on a dime in the early part of 2023, I think, right, Mike? Like
Yeah,
just like turned on an absolute dime and has continued to excel.
yeah. We were on the East Coast for that. I
I
was with you, bud.
like, don't you think that some of, or maybe not early 2023, but like the later part of 2023, the first part of 2024, I got to believe that there's a healthy amount of folks that like vacated the Bud Light category and moved to Guinness at this point, and I think they've stayed too.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, people are also chasing lower ABV drinks too. Guinness is lower
Yeah,
in ABV. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell where that Bud Light drinker really went. I mean, a lot of people assume spirits as well too. But yeah, I mean, and Pacifico to be doing what they're doing as well. I mean, there's a lot of shifts in the market where people are finding new brands that they enjoy and that and the labels that they enjoy too, right? We've talked about that a few times.
In
Didn't I
reality,
see that?
probably
Didn't I see that like Peroni was up really high too, the Italian brand?
Peroni's up too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Molson Coors has a stated plan to make that the next million barrel brand in their portfolio. That's their from last year. That was their stated like corporate initiative to make that a
And that's not a
huge
cheap, and
brand.
that's not a cheap six pack, is it?
Nope. That's a high end six pack. I mean, that'd be line price closer to Stella and
That's what I was
Ultra,
thinking. Yeah.
probably closer to Stella and Heineken than anything else. Yeah. I think Guinness is actually really shaken like the heavy beer status. Like people have really realized that it is a dark beer, but is not a heavy beer from a caloric and a calorie
Mm-hmm.
and a carb instant from a carb intake as well. It's one of the best zeros out there. Have you guys had Guinness Zero yet?
I have
I mean,
not.
the regular is almost zero.
The regular is. I mean, it's 4.2.
Right?
Is it
No,
that
but
low?
It's pretty low. Maybe
it's
it's
pretty low.
lower. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's a great beer that you can just
Google would know.
you can be social and drink and not get wasted. Like it's a good one. And I think you're right. I mean, I think the consumer might be getting more educated that just because it's dark doesn't mean it's like a milk stout.
Yeah.
It's I think about some of those like Meisenbachs and some of those German styles too that are they may be darker, but it doesn't mean that they're super hard to drink when it's warm outside.
Yeah.
Guinness
I
draft
mean, could there be
4.2.
4.2?
Yep.
I mean, could there be a correlation from NA beers to low ABV beers too? I mean, if alcohol's bad for you and you still want to have a couple beers, maybe you're coming off of the 7.5 IPAs that are out there. Oh, I'll just cut that in half and I'll just do a couple Guinness instead. And there could be some crossover there as well.
All of these top brands that are called out, Ultra, Busch, Pacifico, Victoria, Guinness, are all low alcohol. They're all below 5, and they're
Mm-hmm.
all in that lighter, pale lager for the most part, and with the exception of Guinness still being a lager, just as stout lager.
It's like watching you watch the chart. There was all the big FMBs that were just crushing it, right? Smirnoff, Mike's, high in sugar, high in flavor, dominated the market for FMBs. And then all of a sudden, we don't like sugar, we don't like sweetness, we don't like all that flavor. Give us a carbonated water with a hint of flavor. And then that was the biggest boom forever, right? And now we're watching that shift back to, well, I like some flavor and who cares about sugar? And you're seeing these sugary drinks come back. But we watch the same thing with the craft. Oh, give me that 11.5%,
So Mike,
quadruple IPA.
so Mike, would you say it's better for a rep to be more adaptable to change then?
I mean, maybe, I don't know. Maybe is that where I'm going with this? Because
maybe,
we
just
watched,
maybe.
the ABV, we watched it go through the roof, and then now it's coming back down too. So
Yeah.
maybe you have to be on your toes a little bit. That's where we should have went with this podcast.
My God, I love it. Have you guys seen this craziness? Have you seen the Cutwater challenge?
Oh
Is
man,
that
it's
the
like a
viral
it's
sensation?
not like Smirnoff Ice. You gotta chug one of these things, do you?
It is, yes.
Oh
So this is
no.
if you look at this on the Instagram, it's in the Cutwater challenge world. Let's see if we can get this. But look, like the amount of people that are chugging these Cutwaters and partying it up, it feels like a Cutwater challenge kind of day. and
No.
we're hearing from clients that like this is actually driving consumer behavior out in the market, and
Yeah.
it's not a supplier driven thing. It is a brand. It is just a brand anomaly that is happening on its own.
My quick story here. So my cousin and her husband, they're pretty close. We see them all the time, but they're hardcore beer drinkers. Always have been. Never went over to like this spirit side or anything. And he starts showing up with the White Russians in his cooler for like shots, right? Hey, these will be fun. We can all do shots of these. They're not like sipping on a bottle, but like it'll be fun. So he throws them in his beer cooler. And we've hung out the last 2 weekends in a row. And every single time, about 11 o'clock at night, it's dark, wanders over to the cooler, grabs a Bush Light out of his cooler and comes back and opens it, and it's a White Russian. This has happened to him a couple nights, and he's like, "Oh man, I got White Russian," and we're like, "Slam it! You have to slam it. Get back to the beer." Maybe that's the next challenge: is hide a few of those in your cooler and don't look. And
Those
just
White
grab
Russians are diabolical. They're very good.
That's
so
not
good.
a good idea. Not a good idea.
I love it.
It's funny. I was thinking when you brought it, I don't know, tying it back to the consumer behavior. You know, in the town I live in, Bend, Oregon, they have like a 5K beer run. So after every kilometer, you have to chug a beer. And I haven't done it in years, but many years ago, because it was all the craft breweries in town that support this. And you roll up to the first station after running a kilometer, and they're running at 85-degree heat, and it was like a freaking milk stout.
Oh,
I'm like, I was like, why are you doing this to me?
Because it's funny.
No, the breweries just sitting there like laughing at us. I mean, for sure, it was probably hilarious. And some dude like smoked this run, like he just like he chugged these beers, ran this run, and it's like I knew the guy. And he's like, he won the race, and I was like, "What'd you win?" He's like, "I won a toaster." I'm like, "That doesn't seem like it's worth it."
No, running and beer drinking just don't go hand in hand.
Like, you want a toaster?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, great episode today, crew. If you like what we're doing, please continue to listen, subscribe, share with a friend on the group chat that you all have as reps. We'd love to hear from you, pitching us ideas, questions, things you want us to talk about. You can hit us up at info@vxptech.com. That's info@vxptch.com. We will be back again, another episode next week. Ross will be back in the Americanas, in the North Americas.
Don't
ready
remind
to go?
me.
Don't remind me.
This time tomorrow I'll be in Atlanta.
Oh boy.
Are you taking off? Are you taking off tomorrow morning then? Is that would be
No,
tomorrow morning then?
4 a.m. I got to wake up here with the whole crew, get them to the airport in Venice, and then we're overnight flight to Atlanta. And then I got to fly Transcon to Portland.
Yeehaw. Have some fun.
Oh, dude, it's going to be awful. It's going to be awful.
Well, if you're getting up at 4 a.m., then at least it's a day trip. It's better than
it's a long day.
It's a long day, but you live on the other side of the earth, so
Yeah.
I love it. Love it. Well, cheers, boys. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Cheers.